Good morning, St. Paul's. It's so lovely to be able to be with you this morning and celebrate that Jesus is alive. And although this Easter Sunday does feel really different than last year and all the ones that we've had before, we've got no less reason to celebrate. Usually on Easter Sunday, we'd read the story of Jesus' grief-stricken friends running to the tomb to find it empty. We read of their panic as they find the situation was not what they expected, and of an angel greeting Mary, and then Jesus appearing to show her that he had risen. This whole part of the story is written in the context of friendship and relationship. I think that's so important, especially today when friendships and relationships are much, much harder than usual. One of our children was really sad this week because she was missing her friends. As we talked, we remembered that Jesus is with us and he is our friend. It dawned on me, in this time of social distancing and more time on our own, in some ways it's an opportunity to really press into the reality of Jesus being with us and invest in our friendship with him. Jesus came into our broken, messy world to have a relationship with us and to show us how to have a relationship with God. This friendship is possible because of Jesus' victory over death. Our story today of Lazarus' resurrection shows us what it means to be friends with Jesus, what it means for God's power to be at work, and what it means for Jesus to be the resurrection. So, Mary and Martha, two women, they were friends with Jesus. They'd spent loads of time with him. They'd eaten with him. They'd listened to him. He'd had dinner at their house. And when their brother became ill, they sent for Jesus. He's who they wanted. They knew that Jesus loved them. And I wonder if, as well as knowing that Jesus would be able to make Lazarus better, I wonder if they just wanted their friend with them. I wonder if they just wanted Jesus' presence, his comfort, his friendship in this time of worry. When life got tough, they knew that they could turn to Jesus. In the same way that Mary and Martha knew Jesus from spending time with him, we can too. So they were physically with him. Like I said, he'd been at their house, they'd shared meals, they'd listened to his teaching. We get to know the same Jesus through reading our Bibles. We get to find out who he was like, what he spoke about, what made him happy, what made him angry. We get to find out how he prioritized his time, what brought him joy, what was important to him, how he lived. We can build a bank of trust in Jesus by spending time reading about him. So my first question for you on this Easter Sunday is, when life gets tough, who do you turn to? It must have been so frustrating for Mary and Martha waiting for Jesus to come, wondering whether he was going to come. They probably kind of knew, or at least desperately hoped, that it would all be okay, but it took ages for Jesus to come. And sometimes it feels like that for us too. Sometimes it feels like it takes ages for Jesus to act. But these times of darkness are an opportunity to wait and trust. Trust the Lord. We see here that Jesus knew what he was doing, what was going to happen. He had the big picture for Mary and Martha, and he does for you too. Now, by the time that Jesus arrives, Lazarus had been in the tomb for 4 days. We're told this so that we know that he was really well and truly dead. I love the way that Martha greets Jesus. Okay, so it's probably been like 5 or 6 days since they sent word for Jesus to come and be with them. That's nearly a week of worry and sickness and then death to build up a complicated mixture of fear and faith, of hope and disappointment, of trust and doubt. And so often that's how life feels, wavering between these emotions. But it's hope in Jesus that anchors us. Even though we experience all of the other emotions, it's this hope that Jesus is coming that keeps us safe. So Jesus arrives and Martha's angry with him. She's like, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. She's so direct with Jesus. She speaks to him like she knows him really well. She doesn't disguise her feelings or pretend that everything's okay or like she's got it all together. She just runs to him and says it like it is. And I think we can learn something here about how to pray. It reminds me of a time, I've told this story before, so forgive me if you've heard it. It was Lent and Adam and I had given up shopping for Lent, not for essentials, but you know sometimes how shopping can just turn into a leisure activity. So we'd stopped doing that, and he had a meeting in London. Now usually I would go with him and very happily entertain myself on Oxford Street, but this time I went with him and had to find something else to do. So I brought my journal and my Bible, and I sat on a bench in town and I started writing. So I was writing prayers. I was just like dumping out all my feelings. And as I was writing down all my feelings and all my pain and everything that I was angry and cross and disappointed about, it was cathartic. But then the strange thing happened. It's like my thoughts started changing, like God's words came into my head, like a different perspective. And so often in prayer, if we give to God all the stuff that we're carrying, it's like then there's space for his words to come in and his light and his life. And that's what warms our hearts and that's what changes things. But we have to let go of what we're holding first. So once Martha has told Jesus how she's feeling, there's space for him to comfort her. He gives her a promise. He says, your brother will rise again. Now Martha, her response to this is so honest too. She says, yeah, I know, in the resurrection at the last day. Have you ever prayed about something, you've asked Jesus for something to happen, and then like fear and doubt creep in and you think, oh, maybe it won't happen, like maybe it won't happen as I want. I know it's going to be all okay in heaven, and I know that's where we're going, and I know that's when God's going to restore everything and make it good. So I'll just be content with that. I wonder if that's what Martha's doing. I wonder if it's disappointment that we hear. In fact, it's not even disappointment, is it? It's preparing herself to be disappointed by Jesus. But then Jesus tells her, I am the resurrection. Now, we have the benefit of knowing what happened next, but Martha didn't. Jesus goes on to explain to her, the one who believes in me will live, even though they die, and whoever lives by believing in me will never die. Do you believe me? It's like he's preparing her for something amazing. The amazing thing is that death is not the end. We've all got eternity to look forward to. Jesus tells us who he is before he died and rose again. It's his identity. His character is resurrection. It is who he is. Now we can have this relationship with Jesus too. We can cry out to him, and we can go to him and we can pour out our hearts. We can tell him what we're really thinking. And then Jesus says to us, do you believe that I am who I say I am? And I found that when I pause and I let myself, I really do believe that Jesus is the resurrection. And recognizing my belief brings the reality of his presence closer. Guys, we can turn to Jesus in our grief and in our distress and our fear and our loneliness. He is with us and he comforts us. Even though he came to Mary and Martha's house to raise Lazarus from the dead, he spent time with his friends first. He shared in their experience with them. The relationship is precious to him. The next bit I want to draw out is when they come to the tomb where Lazarus was buried. Jesus orders the stone to be rolled away, and Martha says, "But Lord, there'll be a bad smell. He's been in there for 4 days." Jesus had just told her, "Martha, your brother will rise again." He'd asked to be taken to the tomb where he was buried, and he'd ordered the stone to be rolled away. And instead of watching and believing, Martha says, "But Lord." I just wonder today, are there any promises that God has made to you which you've responded like Martha did? But God. Jesus says, "I am the resurrection." I just wonder if there's anything in your life that needs to be resurrected this Easter. Are there promises that God has made to you that you have let go of? Are there things that you haven't let yourself believe and you've said, "But God"? Do you have a faith that has gone cold? Let's pause today and remember that Jesus is the resurrection. He died and rose from the dead. And he's also in the business of relationship and resurrection. Jesus rising from the dead means new life for all of us. Jesus rising from the dead has echoes in eternity, and it means something for our lives today. It means that we can put our trust in Jesus, that we can be friends with him, we can pour out our hearts to him, we can know him in every season, in every circumstance. We can be like Martha. We can ask him to come and be with us. We can give him all our emotions, even the ugly ones, and we can allow ourselves to be comforted by him. And we can watch and wait to see what he will do in our lives.